All will fall. Demand your colony to success or a great suffering death, as you are stranded in the sea and all you have is a small amount of resources to survive. So the gameplay loop of this game is you have a colony, you've got workers which get the general resources above water, you have engineers which will do the same thing but they will also work in your buildings, and you have sailors which will get stuff in the water. They will gather resources and allow you to expand your settlement. Everyone does need a house and they also need to sleep at night. It kind of reminds me of Timberborn in that aspect and the building aspect. Now the colony does need food and water to survive. You can unlock this in research, you can unlock buildings, assign them to buildings. In general, the AI is definitely a strong point. I had zero pathing issues and everything worked as intended. Now what makes the gameplay loop hard? Well, you have different levels of tide. You've got a low tide, a lot of resources. You've got a middle tide, just your basic amount. And you've got a high tide, which is basically full survival mode. And you better have resources in your storage. You can actually see that in the top right, it's not random. You will be able to see and prepare for these events sort of things that happen. In general, the tutorial is amazing. There's like a lot of things going off in these colony games, but the tutorial does a really good job at explaining what you need to know to expand the colony. So I had no issues there. Now the main selling point of this game is that it's physics based, and I ran into a situation where I was building a house and actually the platforms just fell into the ocean. Now it's important to note that when you're building and if something's immediately gonna fall into the ocean, it will bring up a UI and tell you, and you will be able to undo it. So it's not really challenging in that aspect, but I did run into a situation where I had wood in the ocean that I did build from the physics. Now the tools and everything that they give you to build and actually expand this colony is amazing. I expect there to be like build time-lapse videos on YouTube. You know how Valheim has them, Minecraft has them. I expect that to happen here too. You can get some really amazing builds. They look so cool. So I had a really big issue with getting wood. It's to the point where you have wood and then you start to run out of wood, and to go to resources you need wood to build platforms, to build stairs. So if you have no wood or very little wood, you're just stuck. You have to wait until a tide comes up and resources start to come in. On the left side of the screen you will see part of the tutorials and gameplay mechanics. Now there's events that happen where there's different ones, but I will just give one example. You see a person and they can either join your colony, or you can tell them to get lost, or you can steal from them. So all of these actually have effects. So as you can see right now, you have different effects in the bottom which will happen relating to your actions. So it will be like you get loyalty for your engineer, your worker, your sailor, and you get happiness, right? Or the opposite. And there's lots of things. You know, you can get boats, you can get resources. I thought that was an extremely cool mechanic, but it happens way too often. So you're trying to micromanage your settlement, or the people in your settlement. You're trying to build to resources. You're trying to build anywhere just to expand your base, and then you have also these events that's happening, and some of them are timed, but they are really generous, so you have time to prepare for them. They just happen way too often. I feel like the first 15 minutes of playing is the only time I got to explore these gameplay mechanics from this new game that I'm playing. And the rest of the time, your micromanagement, it just gets too much. There's so much happening that you've got to manage, and it just gets way too overwhelming. You don't have to take notice of most of these events unless it's a timed event, but you're gonna want to, so you can get the loyalty and the happiness up of your colony. So that kind of leads me on to another thing. These events will tell you minus loyalty, minus one citizen, and it makes zero sense to go for that one when the option above it or below it is positive loyalty. positive citizen, or you get resources. Why would you ever choose the negative one? It doesn't make sense. These options don't make sense. In general, this game is amazing. It needs very little polish actually. It's so well polished. There's a few little bugs, but I didn't mention them because they're obviously going to get patched. I have reported them. So the main thing that I'm trying to explain is the gameplay and the loop and the content. And it's so good. This game's going to release, and I hope it does well. It has every right to do well. Everything is set up for it to do well. It's a really fun game. You can try and get a playtest of this game. I was in the playtest, but they are ending it at some point. But this is truly better than a lot of colony games that I've played. It has a lot of good base building too. So if you aren't much of a colony type, which I don't have a lot of hours in colony sims, you don't need to. You can just expand your base. You can build. There's stuff to do here that isn't just focused on colony building or base building. You can also get boats, which there are some boat upgrades that you can do, and they will basically go into the ocean. You can assign people to them and bring back resources. These aren't well animated right now. I assume they are gonna get animated in the future. The link is below. Definitely give this a wish list so you can get notified when it releases, and if there's a playtest. It's definitely worth checking out. I love this game so much. I spent way longer than I anticipated me spending. So no rating because it's pre-release, but it looks promising.